Imagine meeting two men. Both have good jobs. Both earn enough to live comfortably. Both have friends. Both look successful from the outside. But spend just one day with each of them, and you'll discover something completely different. The first man stays calm when life becomes difficult. He doesn't panic when people criticize him. He doesn't need to prove himself to anyone. His confidence comes from within. The second man looks just as successful, but every insult ruins his day. Every rejection feels personal. Every setback makes him question his worth. From the outside, they look almost identical, but inside, one is strong, the other is quietly falling apart. The truth is, weakness rarely announces itself. It doesn't always look like fear. It doesn't always look like failure. Sometimes, it hides behind confidence, behind expensive clothes, behind loud opinions, behind a busy schedule. And in today's world, where everyone is encouraged to look successful instead of becoming strong, it's easier than ever to mistake appearance for character. Nearly 2,000 years ago, the Stoic philosophers warned about this. They believed the strongest person wasn't the one who could control other people. The strongest person was the one who could control himself. As Epictetus once said, "No man is free who is not master of himself." Today, we're going to explore 6 signs that quietly make a man weaker, not so you can judge others, but so you can recognize these habits before they become part of your own life. Because real strength begins with brutal honesty. Sign 1. He needs constant validation. Imagine posting something online. You tell yourself it doesn't matter. But 10 minutes later, you check who liked it. An hour later, you check again. Someone compliments you. Your mood improves. Someone criticizes you. Suddenly, your confidence disappears. Without realizing it, you've handed the steering wheel of your emotions to complete strangers. This is one of the biggest traps of modern life. Many men don't build self-worth anymore. They borrow it from other people's opinions. They measure themselves by promotions, by followers, by status, by approval. And because these things constantly change, their confidence changes with them. The Stoics believed this was a dangerous way to live. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "Look within. Within is the fountain of good." Think about those words. If your value comes from outside, then anyone can take it away. But if your value comes from your character, it stays with you no matter what happens. The strongest men aren't the ones receiving the most applause. They're the ones who continue doing the right thing, even when nobody is watching, because they understand something most people never learn. Validation feels good, but dependence on validation is a silent prison. And once a man depends on approval, something else begins to happen. He starts losing control over the one thing that matters most: his emotions. Sign 2. He cannot control his emotions. Modern culture often tells men, express everything you feel. But expressing every emotion is not the same as being controlled by every emotion. There is a difference. Imagine you're driving home after a long day. Someone cuts you off in traffic. Your heart races. You shout. You replay the moment in your mind for the next 30 minutes. The other driver has already forgotten about it, but you're still carrying it. Who lost? Or imagine receiving one harsh message before bed. Instead of sleeping peacefully, your mind starts creating arguments that never happened. Hours pass. Nothing changes, except your peace is gone. This is how emotional weakness works. It doesn't need a major tragedy. Sometimes, all it takes is one careless comment, one disagreement, one unexpected inconvenience. Seneca understood this long before smartphones, emails, or social media ever existed. He wrote, "We suffer more often in imagination than in reality." How many arguments have you had that only existed inside your own head? How many nights have you ruined thinking about conversations that never happened? How many moments of peace have you traded for problems that existed only in your imagination? A strong man is not someone who never feels anger. He feels it, but he chooses not to become its servant. He feels fear, but he doesn't let fear make his decisions. He feels disappointment, but he refuses to let disappointment define his future. Marcus Aurelius reminded himself every single day, "You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength." That sentence isn't just philosophy. It's a daily practice. Every moment life gives you a choice. React or respond. One makes you a prisoner. The other makes you free. But emotional control alone doesn't make a man strong, because there's another habit that quietly destroys more potential than almost anything else. And most people don't even realize they're trapped by it. The addiction to comfort. Sign 3. He runs away from discomfort. There is a dangerous belief spreading through modern life that if something feels uncomfortable, you should avoid it. If a conversation is difficult, leave it. If a challenge feels overwhelming, delay it. If learning a new skill takes too much effort, find something easier. Little by little, comfort becomes a habit, and habits become character. At first it seems harmless. You skip one workout, you delay one important task. You tell yourself you'll start tomorrow. Then tomorrow becomes next week. Next week becomes next month. And before you realize it, you're no longer making decisions. Your comfort is making them for you. The Stoics believed that comfort was never the goal of life. Growth was. Epictetus once said, "Difficulties are things that show a person's true character." Think about that for a moment. Anyone can stay calm when life is easy. Anyone can feel confident when everything goes according to plan. But who are you when life becomes uncomfortable? When nobody believes in you? When you fail? When you're rejected? When you have to begin again? Those are the moments that reveal your character. Imagine two men standing at the bottom of a mountain. The first one looks at the climb and says, "It's too difficult." The second one looks at the same mountain and says, "This is exactly why I need to climb it." One chooses comfort, the other chooses growth. 5 years later, they are living completely different lives, not because one was luckier, but because one became stronger every time life became harder. A weak man waits until he feels motivated. A strong man acts even when he doesn't feel like it, because discipline is far more reliable than motivation. Every difficult decision you avoid today becomes a bigger obstacle tomorrow, and every uncomfortable challenge you face today becomes proof that you are stronger than you were yesterday. But even worse than avoiding discomfort is believing that your life is never your responsibility. And that leads us to the fourth sign. Sign 4. He always blames someone else. Have you ever noticed how easy it is to find someone else to blame? The economy, your boss, your parents, your childhood, society, bad luck. Sometimes those things are real. Sometimes life truly is unfair. The Stoics never denied that. But they also understood something that many people refuse to accept. Blaming the world may explain your situation, but it will never change it. Imagine two men who lose the same opportunity. The first spends months talking about how unfair life is. He tells everyone why he failed. He collects excuses. He waits for someone to rescue him. The second man also feels disappointed. But after a short time, he asks himself one question: what can I do next? That single question changes everything. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "The impediment to action advances action. What stands in the way becomes the way." Obstacles are not always the end of the road. Sometimes they are the road. Every successful person has been rejected. Every respected leader has failed. Every wise person has made painful mistakes. The difference is not that they avoided hardship. The difference is that they refused to become victims of it. A weak man says, "My life happened to me." A strong man says, "My response is my responsibility." That doesn't mean pretending life is fair. It means refusing to let unfairness become your identity. Because the moment you stop blaming everything outside yourself, you begin taking back control of your future. And that is where real strength begins. But there is another weakness that is far more subtle. It doesn't look like failure. It doesn't even look like fear. In fact, millions of people experience it every single day without noticing. It's the inability to be alone. Sign 5. He cannot be alone. There was a time when silence was normal. People could sit on a park bench without reaching for their phone. They could walk without headphones. They could eat a meal without checking a screen every few minutes. Today, silence makes many people uncomfortable. The moment they are alone, they reach for distraction. Music, videos, messages, social media, anything to avoid being alone with their own thoughts. At first it seems harmless. After all, what's wrong with watching another video or checking one more notification? The problem isn't the phone. The problem is what the phone is helping you avoid. Because the man who cannot sit quietly with himself will spend his entire life running from himself. The Stoics practiced solitude for a reason. Not because they hated people, but because they understood that clarity is born in silence. Marcus Aurelius often withdrew from the noise of public life to reflect. He once wrote, "Nowhere can man find a quieter or more peaceful retreat than in his own soul." Read that again. Your greatest refuge is not a vacation. It's not a new city. It's not a bigger house. It's your own mind. But if your mind feels like an uncomfortable place, no destination will ever give you lasting peace. Many men spend years chasing external success while neglecting their inner world. They know how to impress strangers, but they don't know themselves. They can lead meetings, negotiate deals, handle pressure at work. Yet the moment they are alone, they feel restless because silence begins revealing questions they've been avoiding. Who am I without my job? Without my achievements? Without people's approval? Without constant entertainment? Those questions are uncomfortable, but they are also necessary. A weak man fills every empty moment with noise. A strong man isn't afraid of silence, because silence is where he learns, where he reflects, where he corrects himself, where he becomes wiser. The world will always try to pull your attention outward. Stoicism teaches you to bring it inward, because a man who enjoys his own company cannot easily be manipulated by loneliness. He chooses relationships because they enrich his life, not because they complete it. And that kind of independence is rare. But even a man who is disciplined, emotionally controlled, and comfortable being alone can still live a weak life if he has no direction. Which brings us to the final sign, sign 6. He lives without purpose. Imagine waking up tomorrow. You check your phone, go to work, come home, watch another show, scroll for another hour, go to sleep. Then you wake up and do exactly the same thing again. Days become weeks, weeks become years. And somewhere along the way, life starts feeling empty. Not because you're lazy, not because you're incapable, but because you're moving without knowing where you're going. One of the greatest tragedies isn't failing to achieve your goals. It's never discovering what truly matters to you. Seneca once wrote, "If a man knows not to which port he sails, no wind is favorable." Think about a ship in the middle of the ocean. It has a powerful engine, an experienced captain, perfect weather, but no destination. Will it ever arrive? Of course not. Many people live exactly like that. Busy, productive, exhausted, yet completely directionless. They spend years climbing ladders, only to realize they were leaning against the wrong wall. Purpose doesn't have to mean becoming famous or building a billion-dollar company. Sometimes purpose is much simpler: to become a better father, a better husband, a better friend, a better leader, a man of integrity, a man who leaves every place better than he found it. The Stoics believed that every day should be lived with intention, not because life is long, but because it isn't. Marcus Aurelius reminded himself of this constantly. You could leave life right now. Let that determine what you do, say, and think. This wasn't meant to create fear. It was meant to create clarity. Because when you remember that time is limited, you stop wasting it trying to impress people who don't matter. You stop arguing over meaningless things. You stop postponing the life you've always wanted to live. A weak man waits for the perfect moment. A strong man understands that the perfect moment never comes. He starts where he is, with what he has, today, not someday. If you've recognized yourself in one or even several of these signs, don't see it as a reason to feel ashamed. See it as an opportunity. Because awareness is where transformation begins. Every strong man was once inexperienced. Every disciplined man once struggled with temptation. Every wise man once made foolish decisions. The difference is that they chose to change instead of making excuses. Remember these 6 signs: seeking constant validation, being ruled by emotions, running from discomfort, blaming everyone else, fearing solitude, living without purpose. None of these habits disappear overnight. but every single day gives you another chance to replace weakness with character. The Stoics never promised an easy life. They promised something far more valuable, that no matter what happens around you, you can become someone who remains steady within. As Epictetus wisely said, first say to yourself what you would be, and then do what you have to do. Don't wait until you feel stronger. Strength is built through the choices you make every single day. So ask yourself one final question. Which of these 6 signs is quietly stealing your potential? And what will you do about it today? If this message challenged the way you think, stay with us. Every week we explore timeless Stoic wisdom and modern psychology to help you build a calmer mind, stronger character, and a life that cannot be shaken by the outside world. Because in the end, the strongest man isn't the loudest. He isn't the richest. He isn't the most admired. The strongest man is the one who has mastered himself.